And it looks like Kate's just come on. That's perfect timing. We were just about to start. Okay.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone.
We actually haven't started. We were just saying hello, and I was just
great. Great. Okay. Do you want to? Why don't you start with the welcome to the country? I'm just getting organized here. I'm at the airport. Sorry for noises.
Okay, I've muted you. So if you can do when you're ready to speak, that would be great, just because the background noise is quite substantial. Okay, beautiful. Well, welcome everyone. This is so amazing to see your faces once again for the 4th week in a row. I hope it has been quite a journey for you all. It's been quite a journey for me and Kate. So I hope that you have felt that energy of each week growing on one another and really slowly stepping into everything. And so I would like to start off, as we always do, of acknowledgement of country. And so I am from the bottom of Australia, as I've mentioned before, and I live and work in Geelong or Jan Jac, and that is Wadawurrung country, and is very sacred land. Is some of the most ancient people live in Australia, and have had an amazing history of caring for the world. And it is such an honour to be able to bring this work to you guys from this space. I feel like I get a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom from the land that helps me be able to share this work with you guys and share the work in general. And I think I really honour that is also been from the traditional custodians that have allowed for me to be able to tap into that wisdom and to be part of that space. So we have done quite a journey to get here. I would really invite you, just before we move on to anything, just to drop in, and we're just going to close down our eyes for a second, and I'm going to actually speak us through where we've come and where we're going. So just closing down the eyes, taking a few deep breaths. Feeling ourselves become more and more present into the moment, into this sharing community, into this rising community. Just taking a few deep breaths together. And so we really started from self, and we looked at the stories of our time, what is happening in the world around us, who we are, and different ways of being part of the Great Turning. So as I'm speaking this, just starting to feel back into all of those weeks and all those learnings. Then we moved on to what strengths and gifts do I have? Like, what areas of growth can we explore? Then we moved and did expanding our ecological self from our ego to our eco. We tapped into boundaries and what boundaries are healthy for us but healthy for the planet. And we felt into, how do we want to step in this life? How do we want to move? How do we want to journey as a person? As well as leaning into the uncertainty of these times and seeing it as a beautiful gift, and shifting from fear to love, from a place of deep love, of deep soul, of deep earth self, and using active hope to be able to become powerful and productive and active in our communities. Then we moved from self and we shifted into nature in rising, where we really connected into what is our home and what is our larger body. What does that feel like? How do we reconnect with it? The role of gratitude in that. The role of ritual to bring us home, to remind us, to remember. Then moving on to the cycles of nature. What are their wisdom that we can learn from? And nature as teacher. Really honoring that and her and hearing her, as well as expanding out to feel all of the emotions that come with being present and alive in the world today. So the honoring the pain of the world. How does that help us activate? How does that help us become more powerful and more grounded? Then shifting from there, we moved into community and rising last week. I was like, who is our community? Really visualizing what is our community around us, knowing our community. How do we vote with our dollar? How do we utilize our energy? And standing for something, being in our community, but standing strong and going, this is how I'm going to be in my community, and standing for something. Then moving on to what are different types of leaders that we see, that we have seen in our community, building that community for our cause, for our local, for our community, for our world, building our team for moving forward with our actions, and the roles of mentors in that, the conversations that we have, the apathy of others. How do we deal with that? How do we dance with that? And then the traditional custodians, how do we honor that? And how do we broaden our sense of community to that of deep time, the ancestors, the future generations, our broader sense of community? And then we come to world. So that has been our massive journey. And we come to world, where we stepped into visioning the world we want to see. You know, where do we want to move into? You know, where do we begin in creating that world? What is campaigning, which Kate will explore further, event management, how does that feed into campaigning, but also anything else that you're doing? And then how to just start, how to redefine failure when we are faced with challenges, or when we feel that we fall down. How do we bounce back up with more resilience and power? And the ripples. When we start this work, how do we really understand the ripples of our work and be grateful for the impact that we can have? And our anchor, our vow as being part of the world and rising, part of rising. How do we anchor it in so that we can continue to rise after these 4 weeks? And so that has been our journey so far. And it has been such an honor to offer you this work, and I hope that it has resonated with you. And I really welcome you to participate fully in the activities that we're going to offer tonight, and also to be really grateful to yourself for participating fully and for taking this risk and being part of the rising and being part of being fully alive at this time, and the amazing journey you've been on for 4 weeks to get here. So thank you. I'm just going to unmute Kate.
Yeah, hey, thank you. What a beautiful reflection. Thank you, Karina. It feels so good to just kind of what we've been doing, our trajectory, our path. I've had the past week so special to see the power of collaboration for global action. So it just feels so perfect to be talking about world and to be here on the other side of the globe from where I live. Kind of bringing closure to our course and talking about world and like self-expanding to world. And I've learned so much too, so that's been really fun, and I'm excited to share a lot of what I've learned today with you guys. I think what's been the coolest lesson in learning here is just seeing seeing, like, kind of having the framework or the visual, the perspective of our course, the framework of our course, to be seeing these activists within that. Seeing the individuals, creating community, working together for nature to save the world, and just seeing how the spheres, how these circles that we're discussing and working on within play out in global activism, seeing all the spheres and rising, all the circles activated. And it's been really incredible to watch how Greenpeace teams operate. So all of the things that we're discussing are so incredibly relevant. What I've really learned, aside from like more building onto more of the resources and tools and things that I've shared with you guys around campaigning and these sorts of like really cerebral ways to campaign and impact change, is just that the relationship with self and nature is above all else is what is the foundation. So really seeing that the people who are working on these issues that don't have a relationship with their self, or that don't take time out into nature, or honor that part of them, burn out, or forget why they started, or feel it's a chore, or it's like a sacrifice, or feel unhealthy. So witnessing the people that honor and cultivate the self and those first two spheres, then they're so much more effective in the second, the community and in the world. So I loved that, and also learning, seeing, the importance of bringing boundaries and cooperation to the community. So once we have ourself and nature, then it's like boundaries are so incredibly important. Like I was basically giving workshops every day on boundaries on the boat, because I was like, wow, no one knows how to respect themselves. It's like just the cause above all else, which I see myself doing as well. It's like, this is the only thing that matters. Like everything else, what else matters besides this? It's our planet, it's our world. So that was really interesting to witness from an outside, to be like, just like the mirror, like I was like, I can see myself in so much of this. And so, and another thing that was a cool thing to learn is, instead of saying but, so a great way to communicate and converse with people that you're working on issues with, saying instead yes and. There's always room for everything in this work. So instead of being like, yeah, I see what you mean, but there's just not enough time, or there's not enough, but it's like, yes. And also our budget is like a little bit limited this year. So we'll definitely have to try and figure out how to work that in. So then it's not like putting a no on someone, because a lot of people are volunteering and, doing this free work. So, I felt like that was a really helpful thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, just the extreme importance of communication. And how we stay graceful in that when we're working with others, when we're working in the community. So this is our last week together, and of course we're talking about kind of our world's view. We're bringing everything from the course into like the planet size picture, and we'll be doing what we're working on today is kind of just visualizing what we want the world to look like. Where we want to get a really crystal clear idea of where we want to live and what we're working towards and what we want to create. This is so important, because otherwise, it's like each generation is coming up with a new normal. Like, it's crazy. Like, their baseline for what's normal is changing. Like, imagine the kids that are born in Philippines where there's trash all over the beaches. That's normal for them. Like, they wouldn't be able to even perhaps beautiful natural places, to keep those in the forefront of our mind, and continue to keep our vision for the world we want to create. Two examples of why this is a cool thing to do. Last week, the Netherlands, the Dutch team for Greenpeace organized a plastival. And this plastival was a plastic-free festival with food trucks and music and workshops and talks and beer, all without plastics. It was so amazing, and everyone had so much fun, and you barely, like, of course you didn't miss plastic at all, and it was just like fully functioning and wonderful. So that was really important for me in terms of kind of like solidifying my vision of what a world looks like. Like I can do it on my own a lot. I'm like, bringing my own everything. But it's like, what does that look like on a larger scale? What does that look like in a community? What does that look like in an event? What does that look like in a festival? And to see it actually happen, with this plastival. And I'm happy to share that resource. They made a resource on how to put together a plastival. If you guys are interested in that, I'm happy to share that, because it was really cool to participate in. So that's like one example of like visualizing what we want the world to look like. Instead of focusing our attention on like, no more trash, no more plastic, it's like, no, vintage furniture and reusable cutlery and like washing stations, like getting really specific with what we see in that vision so the universe can deliver it. Otherwise the universe is like, it's too blurry, I'm going to skip you and go to someone else's Ferrari. And so then another thing that was really interesting is I interviewed a lot of the Greenpeace people, because there was like people from the international team and the Netherlands team, and they were kind of working together, but like the international team is telling like the global story, whereas the Dutch team is working on like the specific actions within the Netherlands. The headquarters of the corporation is in Rotterdam, so they were like focused in on how can we make a big scene and create awareness and confront the corporation Unilever about the plastic pollution. So they're like focused on that action, and like the ship tour down the river, delivering the plastic monster to the next location to confront the next corporation, which is Nestle. So, and the global team is working on the whole story arc. So they started in the Philippines, where they showed all the trash in the beaches and the ocean. It's a ship tour to highlight the issue of plastic pollution. So they had their ship, Rainbow Warrior, in the Philippines, and they like took it around in the islands and took plastic samples and saw all of this, all of the pollution. And then they took the team to Amsterdam to say, because all the pollution is all branded, so you can see the brand names right there who are responsible for creating this trash. So then it's like, all right, Unilever is the second biggest polluter. They're based in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Nestle is the first big polluter. They're based in Switzerland. So then the ship tour, the global Greenpeace, takes the campaign to the Netherlands. There's a ship there called Beluga. They host actions at the headquarters of Unilever. Then they take the boat to Switzerland, and they're planning on an action at Nestle headquarters. And so the global team is telling that story. So they're like, working with each individual offices. And then the Netherlands, the Philippines team, Greenpeace team was coordinating that part of it, and the Netherlands team is coordinating this part, and then the Switzerland team is going to coordinate that action. So it's like all of these, so one person, a million emails going around constantly, Skype chats, WhatsApp chats, like conference calls. Like, it was just incredible to see them operate. So I interviewed a couple of them to be like, what's the process for making this stuff come together? This is amazing. And why did you get started? And one of the guys said, I was like, why do you dedicate your life to this work? And he was like, I see our world dying. There's nothing more important than this. And it's like, that's when we're connected to ourselves and when we're connected to nature, we see clearly. We see the world that we live in. We're a part of it, and when we're disconnected, we're just like robots, like buying stuff and like going to work and like, but the way I felt him when he said that, it's like, I see our world dying. Like, I'm a part of it. I see it. And that's out of alignment with my world vision. Like, it doesn't fit with the world that I want to live in, the world that I think I live in. So I have to do something about it. So that's where I've been this past week, and I would love to answer more questions if you have any about this time with Greenpeace, because it's so fresh and it was so interesting and I learned so much. So if you have questions, definitely write them down for the end. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Karina for visioning exercise.
Beautiful. I've just muted you again, just so we don't get any of that background noise. I think it's such an honor to have Kate actually over there doing and really living and breathing the world aspect of this at the moment. We all live and breathe our own version of that, but having, going over to the other side of the world and being able to be doing the campaigning, when one of the key parts of this week is campaigning, is it makes it so much fresh and so much realer. Like, I could talk about the campaigning that I'm doing right now, but the fact that Kate is over there specifically doing her entire time allocated to it, like, that is perfect timing for you guys to hear from her. And so really take advantage of the fact that that is where we're at, and that's where me and Kate are at the moment. And so ask the questions, get all the nuggets like out as much as possible, because you won't often come, at the times where people are in those spaces, like really living and breathing it. So to begin with, as Kate said, she explained why it is important for us to be able to vision the world that we need to see. I don't need to go into that again. But what we're going to do is actually vision it together, individually, but also collectively. And so this is a quick meditation. I encourage you to be able to do a more expansive one when you're home, even do it with your partner or your friend, where you can talk each other through it or whatever. But really hearing what it is that your soul is calling to create in the future, the world that you want to see. And so I just invite you once again to close down your eyes. And just take a few deep breaths. Coming home to your soul, to your alignment with your feet on the earth, of the wisdom that you hold in your body and your larger earth body. And just starting to imagine moving forward into the future, walking forward each step and each breath, slowly taking you towards this beautiful, shining future. Continue walking forward towards this bright light. Feeling your heart expand more and more as you come closer and closer to this place. As you move into the light, the world starts to create itself around you. And with every breath, you breathe into life the future and the reality you wish to create. The first breath, you create the physical surroundings. What does it look like? What is around you? How much nature is there? What sounds do you hear in this environment? Breathe into that. In the next breath, you breathe in how you feel in this world. How do you wish to feel in the future? What community surrounds you? How does your community interact with one another? What animals, what life lives all around you? What do you do in your day-to-day life? How do you interact with the earth, with others, with your community? What does that look like? Imagining your day from start to end. You wake up. What would you be doing? What would you be looking forward to? What would you be creating? Who would you be interacting with? How would you be interacting? Starting to look around at this full picture you've created. This beautiful, detailed world that surrounds you, that holds you. The future you're trying to create that makes your heart expand, that makes your soul sing, that makes joy seep out of every pore of your body. What does this future look like? Taking this detailed world, we draw it in with love. We draw it in with every breath into our heart space. We sit it within our heart, this amazing future that is possible, that we can create, that we can love and act into a reality. And it's as the visualization was, that every step brings you one step closer to that bright, beautiful future. Your future, our future, and the world's future. This is the world we want to see. Feeling that rest within our heart space. We open our eyes and we come back to the now. Knowing where we want to be and where we want to go helps us to be able to decide how we want to act, what our next step is, how we want to live. That picture and that visualization, hold sacred in your body, in yourself. It'll help you be able to do the work that we need to do, that we need every individual doing. That vision, share it with other people. Bring them into your vision of the possibility of what can be created. Bring them along. Allow them to create their own vision and their own future that honors their wants and desires and the world needs. Really hold that in your consciousness every time that you go and do something. Every event you run, every campaign you interact with or manage or create, that is your foundation. This is what you're working towards. And it's like, okay, that's there. Let's do every step to move you towards that. And so Kate is now going to explore with us one of a really great tool to be able to get towards that. And that is around campaigning.
Thank you, Karina. That was so beautiful. It's, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like the tools that I've shared about around campaigning, you know, a word used is vision, and that's the worldview. That's what we want to see, and that's always what we start with. So, learning the campaigning tools from Greenpeace years ago, and being able to apply them to specific things like plastic pollution or like reducing coffee cups at a cafe, or different like kind of small campaigns. It just like the romantic in me is so inspired by the idea of beginning with like, start with the vision, you know, that's where it begins. And then from there you go to your goals and then your strategy and your tactics, you know, but it's like the macro is like, it's not like we achieve our goal. It's so much more poetic, you know. It's like, what is the world I want to live in? What do I want to see? It's like this visualization meditation is so useful to do because it really helps us solidify where we want to live. So starting with the vision, if you're like all the campaigning that I've done, that's been successful has had a strategy. You know, I've had success, as we've talked about before, being a North, being the warrior, just like urgently needing action. But even that had like a loose strategy. And so in researching for this course, for these parts of the course where we wanted it to be a little bit more structured and helpful for you to have like tools and resources, I thought, you know, instead of just what I usually do, which is like winging it or putting it together on the fly, or like when there's like this urgency, it's like, okay, we need to start it, but then like build it as we go. So doing the research around a lot of different campaigns and how they've been effective, everyone comes back to strategy. Like, it does not matter. You know, you need a plan, otherwise you're aimless. You know, it's like you're set your sails, but you have no course charted. So it doesn't matter where you blow. So how do we build a successful strategy? And do you all, and we'll go into this a little bit more, but do you each have kind of something that you want to work on? Like, is there a specific idea that you've kind of been brewing over that, like, shake your head yes or no if you don't have something specific, and either is fine. You do. Okay. So there's something, okay. Yeah. Okay, Rose. So it's like, if you do, yes, Nicole. Okay. So this just helps. And like, Rose, don't worry, like, you don't need one, but it's just like, sometimes it helps like conceptually to use a little bit of like an idea, even if it's just a seed idea. Like, man, my local grocery store, like, it really bums me out that there's only plastic bags. You know, it's like, it can start as just like kind of a thought or something that like is out of alignment with the vision, you know, the worldview. So for me, like, when I was in Hawaii 2 months ago, or whenever that was, you know, seeing all the bioplastics everywhere, I was like, ooh, that's out of alignment with my worldview. So it's like, we kind of start to see like little opportunities. And so I was like, man, that's, you know, so then when I had my mermaid retreat in Hawaii, I had a team, you know, I like assembled my team, and we did the team type compass, where I'm like, okay, who are my Norths? Okay. You know, we like to talk together and we get along, but we're probably not great on the same team. Okay. Who are my Wests? All right, good to know who you are. Like, we got to work together. Who are the dreamers? Okay. You know, where are the nurturers? Okay, great. So then it was like, I could identify early on in my retreat because this retreat was like quite activism focused. They're kind of getting that way anyways. So I was like, okay, I could kind of understand my team. And then I was like, look, this is, what do you guys want to work on? We're going to learn all the campaigning, and we're going to have a specific issue here in Hawaii so that we could kind of just like practice around something real. And I shared with them the bioplastics, and there were tons of other things. There's a million things affecting the environment at all times. What do you pick? So as we're talking about this stuff, I invite you to think about the kind of little seed of an idea, or maybe it's further along than that. And just to kind of maybe even take notes if that helps you around your specific campaign. So starting with the vision, and I'll use the Hawaii example as well as the plastic monster, so we can kind of can understand or play with this tool on like a local level, like a state, Hawaii, or an island more. This was one particular island, and then also like the world. So Greenpeace Plastics Campaign. Start with the vision. That's the same, right? It's like a magical nature land, like frolicking, living in community, and growing vegetables and food, and happy families, kids playing outside, devices nowhere in sight, sunshine, flowers, waterfalls. That's my vision. Healthy ocean, like dolphins jumping in whales, eating without worry. Then what are the goals? So we've done a lot with vision. This is our worldview, and you want to start with that. So that's always the very top. That's the very first thing, because you want to read that. If you turn to your pages, that helps you remember why you started. That helps you remember what the hell you're doing, like spending 12 hours a day on a computer for conference calling. It's like vision. And this also keeps you accountable to the bigger picture. Next, there's just 4 things for this. So vision, then the next is goals, and then strategy, and then tactics. So the goals, as I've mentioned in the PDF, are your headlines. So what are you trying to get in the papers? So for Hawaii, the goal would be Hawaii bans all single-use plastics, including bioplastics, or Hawaii sets up a commercial composting facility on island and collection systems like trucks, because there's already so much of that bioplastics in circulation. So those are the goals. What are the headlines? For Greenpeace Plastics Campaign, it's Unilever changes all packaging to refillable or repurposable. Nestle gets rid of plastic sachets. These are the headlines that we're going for. And so then once you know what you're aiming for, then you can go down again and build the strategy for how to get there. It's kind of like flipping the paper upside down and being like, all right, this is where I want to end up. Now I'm here. How do I get there? And that's where the team comes in so handy, because it's like the dreamer helped set the vision, helped set the goals. But then the analyst might need to be like, these are the details for how we get there. So I invite you to think about your goal. What is the one specific goal that would make your campaign a success? So like for the plastics campaign in the Netherlands, it's a Unilever promise around plastics. That would be the one goal that would make their campaign a success, right? They're creating an action to bring awareness to this multinational corporation. So setting a goal. Then the strategy, this articulates the goal. There's so much in the strategy, right? So there's a lot around how we create our target, who we're working towards. For the Hawaii campaign, if we want, so important, because if we're asking for a commercial composting facility, then our target is actually like local government. Our target is actually like working with waste management systems and figuring out how that would be possible. If it is the Hilton in Hawaii stopping handing out bioplastics, then our target, if our goal is Hawaii bans single-use plastics, we work with government, and then we need to also work with like community members and residents so that they get active in this sort of change. For the Greenpeace plastics, if the goal is Nestle stops making plastic sachets, then our target is the public. We want to put pressure on them, probably the government as well, the UN perhaps, to support this sort of reduction in plastic pollution the world over. So it helps us when we have a really clear specific goal. It helps us create a really careful plan that, if followed and well implemented, guarantees that we achieve the goal. But without a clear goal, we're kind of like doing all sorts of like little tactics and little things that don't unite the energy and direct it towards that one very specific goal. Nestle stops making plastic sachets. Okay, how do we do that? We need to put pressure on that multinational corporation to make a change. How do we do that? We show all the sachets polluting all the planet. We show that pollution. We show how devastating that is. We get speakers from the Philippines sharing how devastating that is. We bring all of these people to the headquarters and confront them with a pile of all the trash, the sachets, all of this with lots of media, with global coverage. And so then the corporation can't really talk their way out of it or press release their way out of it. They're like in the spotlight, kind of stunned, and they have to make a promise. So that's why the specific goal is super. Did we get inside the headquarters? We got outside the headquarters. So we did the march at night, because apparently there were so many marches right now because everyone's marching for the climate and everything. This world is on fire. So they were like, how do we make a unique action? So they organized a rave, which was super awesome, and they got this famous DJ to play music from the river, and we marched along the sidewalk, over the bridge, along the sidewalk to the headquarters, with the dragon, like the plastic monster, all lit up and like mouth opening, and it was amazing. And Unilever and we had things being projected onto the side of the building, like break free from plastic and greenwashing machines, and like it's all bullshit, like I was just calling them out. And they actually had a few representatives there, and they were like shaking in their boots. It was amazing to see the energy of the crowd, and then like these few Unilever representatives, and they were like, apparently the director of sustainability was planning on confronting Micah, the head activist, the lead campaigner. And then at the last minute, she like pushed the head of marketing guy to do it. And so Micah is like in full power, like, so like, just like, with such like powerful energy and like fire in her eyes, and she's got like the microphone and she's like speaking to the crowd, and everyone's like, yeah, and like cheering. And then the guy comes over and he's like, we will accept your plastic monster. This is all in Dutch, like I'm using a weird accent, but like I didn't understand what they were saying. We'll accept your plastic monster and we will recycle it into more Greenpeace signs for you. And everyone's like, no, like she was like straight onto him, like, we already have Greenpeace banners, and they're not made from plastics, and you cannot recycle your way out of this. Recycling is not the answer. And he's like, we promise to do, he's grabbing the microphone, we are doing more recycling. We are making commitments to more recycling. And she was like, all of your packets have the recycling symbols printed on them. None of them are being recycled. That is not the answer. We need total change, blah, 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 but like so fierce. It was so amazing. And that's something that I want to talk about later. So I'll try and wrap this part up so we can get to that. It's just like being in your power and what it feels like to be like, like what that looks like to you. Because like when I saw Micah do that, I was like, whoa, it was like she was like in her power. She was just like superhero. So we'll get to that in a little bit if I can get through this section. There's just so much to say. So for the strategy, just to wrap up this section, everyone has to be across it. It has to be agreed upon by the whole team, and it has to have a timeline, like when is that win, when are the key dates, so that everyone can focus their energy appropriately. And then the tactics are what are the like minutia, the admin, the little tasks that we have to do that build the strategy. So the strategy is kind of like like the bridges in the river, and the tactics are like the stepping stones. So, but it's really easy for us to get caught in the tactics. So I feel like reminding you, like, if there's anything that you take away from this, like, yeah, romance of vision, but like more tactics will tangle you. Like, do not get tangled in the bushes of tactics, because even I find myself being like, oh, I really need to, like, I'm going to organize this little part, you know. It's like, I can't think of an example right now, but it's like we get caught in the little things, in like the little emails or conversations or little details, when really it's the strategy needs to keep moving. So that's important to stay on task with the goals, and the bigger picture of the strategy, and really feeling into what's strategy moves and what are the smaller tactics. And then, of course, like being really clear in your strategy about who your target audience is. So I welcome you, if you do have an idea for a campaign that you're working on, write the goals, identify like a few key things in your strategy, a few key things that need to happen in order to get to those goals. And then also write down the target audience. So like, who are the people that I need to work with? Who do I need to target some sort of messaging to, or invite them to the conversation? And that's like a really good start. That's a really good skeleton in terms of like where to begin for launching your campaign. So that's kind of, I mean, like, there's so much more that we could talk about in that, and I invite you to ask questions specifically about your campaigns too, if you have them, just so that we can support you in launching something from this course, and also use the Facebook page as a resource as well if you have questions. So, okay, handing it back to Karina.
Beautiful, amazing. I love hearing the fierceness of campaigns and what they bring out in people. It's amazing. I'm going to mute you again. Sorry. Won't let me. Never mind. That's okay. I'll just leave it on. Yeah. So campaigns. Oh, there we go. It's worked now. Sorry. Yeah, so from campaigns, like, I just wanted to say that they are just really powerful ways of creating change, but also that you might be part of, so when we said, like, don't reinvent the wheel, when we're talking about campaigning, it's like, yeah, you might be doing your own campaign, or you might be part of a larger campaign. So, you know, such as Greenpeace or whatever, someone that resonates with what your passion and area of change that you want to be doing might be doing something. They might have the vision sorted, they might have, you know, the strategy and all that kind of thing, and you're the local hub of that. So you're the local community that's then going, okay, I'm going to do what Greenpeace, one of their projects, I'm going to be a part of that, and I'm going to be part of the local hub in Geelong, which is where I'm from. Geelong is going to implement Greenpeace's action on this. And so you can feed in and utilize their strategy, but then you also might need to relocalize that strategy. So there'll be like the larger one that's encompassing it, and then there might be your own one that will have alignments to that, but then also needs some tweaks to be able to hit and the places that are relevant to your area. So that's where there'll be the big campaign potentially, and then your own campaign. But also that knowledge is helpful even if you don't end up doing campaigning, so that you can understand what it is that these groups are doing. And when you see bits and pieces going on around you in the Great Turning, you can pick up and go, oh, that's that, and that's part of that. And they can help also inspire your own work. So if it's not campaigning, that's fine, but it might be that you take some of the tactics or some of the strategy or the vision and apply it to whatever thing it is that you're passionate about and whatever you're working towards. And so I'm just going to really briefly touch on events, because when you're doing campaigning, or when you're being part of the movement or whatever, there is often the need for you to be able to do events. And so that might be, You know, there's so many different ways of being part of the Great Turning. That can be everything from, you know, doing a massive rally and a big movement and campaign, or to do like documentary screenings, to organising a food swap, or to running just simply a women's circle where you're sharing ideas and learning from each other, or presenting to schools or universities, or you know, any of these things. And they're all essentially events. And that's where we've shared bits and pieces of the event management with you, so that you can feel hopefully more capable of being able to go about, like, what do I need to consider with events? The events are a powerful way of interacting with your community, to getting them on board, educating them, whatever it is that your aim is. So that vision, that, you know, the goals, it feeds into the goals, and can be one of the tactics as well that feeds into that strategy. And so what I invite you to do is just to return to one of the questions we put to you the other week with an activity where we said, what is something that you would give? We dropped into ourselves, if you remember, and we said, what is an issue that you would give 5 to 10 hours unpaid per week? What is your soul calling for you to respond to? And just thinking about what that is for a second. So just coming back to that place, what was that? Okay, it was this issue. Okay, great. And then what we're going to do is just quickly note down on your computer or a notepad, what is an event that you could do that could help you achieve whatever this vision is, or whatever, you know, the issue is that was calling for you to respond. So just taking a moment to think of what would be a great event. Obviously, you would do this more strategically and all that kind of stuff in general, but just for the sake of this activity, what's an event that you could do? Is it a movie night? Is it bringing people together and doing a gig? Is it doing awareness raising or fundraising for the ocean? Is it doing yoga but talking about reconnecting to the earth? Is it a big massive forum or conference? You know, what is it? And so whatever that is, then I invite you, which is one of the key parts of events, apart from, you know, all of the intricacies of how you run it, what you consider, is what is your hook? What is your thing that makes your event special? How are you going to communicate that to people? What is your hook to bring people into it? You know, what is unique about it? What can you offer? And so with that hook, I often go back to looking at myself, if it's me that's I'm running the event by myself, or my team, if I'm doing a team event and we're running it as a team, and we go, what is unique about us? You know, what is it that we can offer, what is our strengths that we can bring into this event and make a hook that's unique? And how can we harness that? Because that's the way we're going to get people. So particularly if it's like an event and you want to do awareness raising or something like that. There's so many of them around. People are really time poor. So imagining that your community around you and what they're thinking, what's going to spark interest? What's a bit different? And that's where I also go back to module 2. So we've already done module 1 where we like, what are our strengths? What are our skills? And then module 2, what can nature teach us? What can I get inspiration of nature around how I can make my event a little bit edgy, a little bit different, a little bit like targeted, something that people are going to be like, I want to go there. I want to be a part of that. Like that is different. And that's what, you know, Kate has done in the past, where she's done mermaid retreats. Her unique part of that hook, like retreats, is like 1 billion retreats. Like it's ridiculous. And it's really hard to get people along to attend your retreats. It's not an easy feat. Her hook is the mermaid of it, the reconnecting to the ocean, people, the sisterhood, the activism meets deep nature connection. Her hook is the mermaid. It's the difference. That's the part. And so that's where you go like, she's gone and gone, what's my offering? What is unique about me? And she's played that into what she's wanted to do. So that's how important for events. And so thinking about, okay, my calling, that 5 to 10 hours, what is it that was calling me to respond? Then that event that we just spoke about, okay, what was an event that could make a step towards addressing that issue? And then what's the hook? What's unique? And really thinking like exploring and brainstorming, and think outside the box, really think like, and put down stupid ideas, because stupid ideas can be the inspiration for a flow on of really wow ideas. So you might say something really ridiculous that's just so impractical and just not, but write it down with your team, because from that, someone else or yourself might be able to be like, yeah, okay, we can't whatever, like jump off a building and skydive out the thing. But what we can do is we can take that flying thought of that public flying thing, and we can fly something over the space, whatever it is, it'll be that, it'll spark creativity and brainstorming for yourself, but also for your team. And that's the hook. We want a hook. The hook was that giant plastic monster. That's a hook. Like, had it just been another rallies are fantastic. They're really powerful. But that made it different. That made it stand out. It made it powerful. It made it be that step more than the others, because it was like, what? This plastic monster? Like, you can't not notice that. You can't not question what is going on there. What is this about? If you're a standby, that's your hook. You've done it. That's how we do it. And so really thinking about that with campaigning, but also with event management, and explore that document more around all of that. So I'm just going to unmute Kate in case. Okay, so she's taken off her video because her internet's unstable. So I've just seen that down the bottom. I ask you a quick question. Did we want to do the 4 intentions, or do we want to go into the superhero?
I'll talk about superhero activity, and then why don't you loop the 4 circles of intention into witnessing the commitment? Yeah. I think that could work together. Yeah. I'll try my video. Hi. Okay, so this activity is for us to please write this down and do this often. Because what I described of seeing Micah in her power is something that we can do for ourselves. And when people describe seeing me in my power, when I'm like full mermaid warrior, like full of that fierce energy, that passion, that is really inspiring. It's organic, it's natural, it just happens. But we can really cultivate that, and we can, it's really important for us to see ourselves in that way too, so that we feel capable of changing the world, and we believe in ourselves as these change makers. So this is a exercise that I like to do, and it really is beautiful to witness. So I invite you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, and use your practice to connect into yourself. Maybe bringing a hand to the heart and one to the belly, whatever feels good for you. And taking a few deep breaths. And tapping into the passion and the power within you. Tapping into the fire, the water, the air, the earth, the spirit. It makes you whole, that makes you complete, that makes you you, and connects you to the earth, our planet, to each other, to all life. Now feeling into yourself and your highest power, your highest, truest self. And starting to visualize yourself. Maybe you are a goddess warrior running through the woods. Or maybe you are a medicine woman standing on the top of a giant mountain. Or maybe you're an eagle soaring through the sky, swooping down, watching over, protecting. Tuning into your version of your higher self, of your true self, of your empowered superhero. Just as we meditate on what we want the world to look like, we meditate on how we want to show up. Who do we look like? Who are we when we're rising, when we're standing up for the planet, when we're standing up for what we believe in? And really give it details. What are you wearing? Can you draw your shoulders down your back more? Can you puff your chest up? Draw the belly towards the spine. Really feel into your body. Feel into the power. Deep breaths, looking at the eyes. Are they fierce? Are they loving and soft? Is the wind blowing in your hair? A few more deep breaths. Standing with your arms long by your side. If you're sitting, try to bring the arms to your side. And just a few more breaths here, and then I want us all to open our eyes when we're ready and show each other this fierceness, this goddess, this superhero that we all have. I want to see you. All right, one more deep breath. And open your eyes and let me see you. Yeah. So this is something you can do anytime. If you need to make a speech, if you need to go talk to a powerful corporation CEO, if you need to, pump yourself up before meeting with your team, come into your power, take your time, breathe, visualize. Sometimes I'm like this smart, magic, sparkly, like iridescent, glowing alien mermaid. Sometimes I'm like fierce warrior, like Artemis, huntress, goddess, so it's like, it might change, but like tap into who you are, what you need, and the goddesses that are serving you and that are channeling and working through you, goddesses and gods and spirits and whoever, like bring them in, let them play. So that is a gift to you, and moving on to Karina.
Yeah. Beautiful. That was such an honor to see all of your power. It is so amazing. And as Kate said, they change, and we can call and pull them up whenever we need to, because they are us and we are the superhero. And when you are all aligned, like, God, that's powerful. You can see it when someone is in their power, because you just feel this energy, and you're like, whenever I see it, my whole body just goes, whew, like, I love it. Like, I just want more and more of it. And I'm drawn to these people, and it makes me be able to stand more in my power when other people are doing it. And so you inspire by standing in that fierceness, and they see it and they will reflect that back to you sometimes, and hear it, hear those words of what, you know, there might be essences that really come up as your core. I find that when I drop into my full self, there is a bit of a theme that keeps coming, that people tell me afterwards. And that seems to be my main one. And then there's other times that I draw on other energies and other superheroes, but there will be one that you emanate more of. And so hear that feedback and embed that in yourself, in your being. And so this is an activity where we're going to bring the 4 weeks an intention to all of the 4 weeks. So if you just in that same power, in that same meditative state, I want you to think about self in rising, whether that's with your eyes closed or open. Because we're going to bring an intention to each week. And we're going to draw a little box. So I don't know if you can see this. Little circles of the 4 weeks. So self, nature, community, and world. And so they cross over so that we have a space in the middle that becomes our nugget, our powerhouse, where we stand. That is us in that center. And so we invite you to do this on a piece of paper, but we also invite you afterwards to go out on earth, on sand, on dirt, whatever it is, and draw this in the earth with thinking and feeling and embodying those intentions. So going out and embodying the self as you draw that, and embodying the nature, etc., etc. And so starting with self, just dropping back into the first week's learning of who we are, and just feeling an intention come from our superhero self, from our soul self, of how you want to be in the world, or how you want to feel. So just writing that one intention in that circle. Then moving on to nature. Our beautiful home, our mother, us as nature. An intention that we want to bring to our relationship with nature, to our being as nature, to that week's learning. Feeling an intention, a feeling, a commitment, and writing that in your second circle. Coming to community in rising. Dropping back into last week's learning. So recent and yet so far away. The beautiful community that we're in. What community do we want to cultivate? What intention or commitment, one sentence, do you want to write down in your circle? Community. How do we want to engage? Your intention might be around that. How do we want to create community? How do we want to feel in our community? Cultivating that. Writing that down in your third circle. And in our fourth circle, which is now here, this week, the world in rising. Once again, feeling all of that we've shared with you in the document, in today. What is an intention, an action, a commitment, of how you want to be in the world, what you want to bring to the world. One sentence about an intention for you, they'll all be different, of that world. Writing that in my fourth circle. And then seeing that space in the middle where everything overlaps. When you do this outside, I invite you to stand in that space, right in the middle. This is where we bring all our intentions and ways of being into how we want to move forward, who we want to be, what we are. That comes into that space. That is our grounding. And so when we stand in that space, we can also visualize our superhero, our fullness, and inviting in those 4 intentions, the commitments, the moving forward, the ways we want to show up or manifest or create. So this is our intentions board that brings together the learnings and the themes of all 4 weeks. This is our way of integrating them, because there is no othering. We are all integrated. This is about integrating this power into one space, into our nugget, into our superhero, into our power. But also grounding into how do we want to be in these 4 areas of our life. So that's my invitation. And then Kate's invitation and mine is to go out and do that on earth, and do that as a practice that goes, this is my vow. This is my vow going forth. This is what I am committing to as a human and as an earth being. So thank you for participating in that one. I now invite you, if I know that we have gone over time, but as we started a bit late, and also it's important as it's the 4th week and we're going forth to really honour some of the stuff that and all of you here. So if you need to drop out of the conversation, I totally respect that, and you'll be able to join us on the recording anyway. But now I would actually like to open it up to you share in so writing your name down the bottom. So if you want to say your name, and then we're going to say something that you have committed to. So, and being witnessed in that fullness, because there is something powerful about that. So, like I'm Karina, and I am going to, from this course, I vow to take action around blah, 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 or I'm going to implement blah, 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 and doing that. So if you could pop your name down the bottom, and I'll unmute you, and just one quick sentence, and we just want to hear you guys, hear you in your beautiful, powerful selves around what it is that you're birthing into the world. So you can either raise your hand or you can pop your name down the bottom just when you're ready. Doesn't have to be a grandiose, massive thing. It can be a small, I'm going to do this. Beautiful. Isabel, great.
I'm Isabella. So I take a lot from this course, but I think the main thing I want to do is get out into the community more, get more hands-on, and really like share all of everything I'm learning and what I'm experiencing with others, and connecting more authentically, and then taking that to the next level. So
beautiful. Thank you. Oh, I love it. That's amazing. I just honor that. I'm going to unmute Kate as well, just so she can respond if she wants to. And Shannon, you're up next.
Hi. I so I work in events, so I have a lot of experience in event management, and I live in San Francisco, so there are so many, allies here on my side, which is really incredible. But I feel like, I really want to take it to the next level and really, take advantage of those connections. I am constantly in communication with all those people who run programs like the, wash the dishes yourself and bringing your own dishes to events and stuff like that. And so what I'd really like to do is actually, host my own actual events, such as like a beach cleanup, but it being like a much larger scale and having all of those local vendors and organizations come and have it be purely sustainable and reusable, and kind of like showcasing those vendors, showing that, look, this is so easy. Like, it's not, it's, everyone thinks it's so hard, but all it is just communicating that extra step to people. So yeah, I think my commitment is to really kind of like buckle down on those connections and like my knowledge, and actually, make it happen, because I plan events all the time. So I just need to do this one on my own.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like it could be useful to share the Plastival model as well that Greenpeace created. This is not like a public document, so I'm like, just, I don't know, I guess like honor that. I don't know, like, don't share it with like everyone. I don't know. I'm not sure why it's not public, but anyways, I'll get that and I'll share it with you guys, because I think it's like everyone should be doing these. Like, these are amazing, and it could just be a good I guess format for how Greenpeace would do it, and then you can just make it your own. So that's a really beautiful intention. Shannon, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, we want to support you. It sounds like Nicole was interested in that document as well. So that could be a tool to support that intention. Thank you for sharing. I'll share mine. So I just like to keep it pretty simple. Minimalism in all things. So self, my intentions are daily yoga and meditation, constant practice, constant reminder. Nature, weekly surf, swim, and run in nature. Community, drawing, like really serving my community, like putting energy into newsletter, and just cultivating this incredible opportunity, this incredible network, and really drawing together so that people can work together and answer each other's questions and connect more. That's a huge intention for me. I'm really excited about that. And then my world is just continuing to participate in cutting corporations off from creating single-use plastic packaging. So those are mine.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kate. And Rose, go.
Hi, everyone. I guess my initial commitment is really just to focus on that nature side of things. It's kind of, that was just it blew my mind, that session, and I've already been connecting into nature. Even just the simple things like the moon cycle, I had no idea about. So learning a little bit more about that, and living by the sea, taking more notice of the tides and that kind of thing. But also just spending more time appreciating it. I know we did a really cool meditation not during the session, but it was something that you sent to us on email. And yeah, it was just really cool. And then I guess I'm sort of still very much on the beginning, sort of connecting into the community, but that'll be kind of my next focus as well. And as my kids are kind of almost at an age where I've got a little bit more time to really get into that. So I'm excited about that.
Amazing. Thank you, Rose. That's beautiful. And I love how different everyone's intentions have been as well. And that just shows the diversity. And I would like to read Nicole's, because I assume she can't come on because she's typed down here. So she said, I commit to creating my team through inviting women from my local community to do a clothing exchange. During the exchange, I will use your course material to inspire the crew to action and to create monthly events like beach cleanups and etc. So that is such an amazing commitment. I love hearing and witnessing you all in this. I can see that Kate is on the move. So I'm just going to unmute you 1 second. Or can I unmute? I think you have to unmute yourself. So she's leaving us for in a second.
I'm just kidding, but I'm still here. I'm still present. So I'll walk. I'll get closer, and then I'll sit down, and then we can close out. So if there's anything that you want to wrap up right now, go for it.
Beautiful. So I might just quickly. Do we want to do like one question and then?
Oh yeah, Q&A. Great. Yep.
Beautiful. Because if you need to go, that's fine. But we just might finish off with some questions.
Yeah, let's do questions.
Lovely. So if anyone has any questions that they would like answered, this is your time to pop them into the bubble and type in so that we can respond. While you guys think on that, I'm going to actually read out one of the questions that I got emailed. So one of the questions was, how do you make a difference when you are not settled in one area or one place? And how do you manage your activism when you're moving around without a solid community base? So that was from, I've forgotten who sent that to me. Sorry, I've just copied and pasted it into a document. But that was from someone who...
Karina, can you paste that in the chat so I can read that again?
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for my purple bubble protection for my journey. It's been really funny doing the webinar from like right here with the humans all around. It's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, so it's there. And so while Kate has a read of that, I'll quickly answer, but I think Kate will have more to offer in this space. But for me, I have found it that I have reached out as I've been moving around. So last year I was entirely transit and had no base. And I spent, it really was about me reaching out and putting that hand out and going, okay, doing my research on the areas and going, all right, who's around that area? Who can I connect it into to run an event or a workshop or partner in? And I'm only there for 3 days, whatever it is, and utilizing the communities that are already there. So even though you're moving around, yes, you don't have your own base of community, but you have multiple communities that are like you're in a community wherever you go. It might not be your community, but someone else's community. So often I'll find a key person who will help connect me into that community so I can then run things. But then also looking at, well, can you create an online community or some other way where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if you're moving around because I can access people, or I can we have this amazing technology world where I can actually talk to people who are very far away, such as Kate, and have, like, she's part of my community, but are we in the same place ever? No. But she's part of my community, and we run things together, we create things together. So that is, a community, but we're both transient people. And so that's an example as well. But I'll let Kate respond as
well. Thank you. So basically for me, I think this is where empowering local communities is really important. So, and why my intention is around cultivating and connecting my online community. When I lived in Byron Bay for 2 years, I had a really amazing base of like conservationists and marine biologists and frothers, ocean lovers. So we had a community, and we could be effective with our campaigns because we had support and a team and each other to rely on and discuss. So when I'm traveling, I have to create that community around me personally, my little support team, like we talked about. and also so that my activism is supported if I'm doing solo campaigns or if I have other campaigns that I'm working on. And then if you're traveling around, you still have access to the entire online world. So, communication is really important. So if you have on the ground campaigns with communities that you used to be a part of or that you feel a part of, but you're not necessarily physically in presence with, staying communicating and supporting them from afar. And then also staying with the online, like taking the work to the online is really, really, I guess, taking it online. So one thing that I'm working on is, since I don't have a physical community right now, and tons of people are contacting me to work on plastics issues, I just am putting them into a spreadsheet. These are a lot of influencers are asking me, like, I want to help. So I'm like, great. So I'm creating this huge community, this like army of people with huge followers, and so then I can be more effective with my campaigning because I have this other community. So I'm creating a different community online. So it's just being creative and thinking about like how can I have impact even though I'm moving around. I have online resources. So that's how I manage activism.
And that follows on really nicely into the other question, which is like any resources that you've liked learning from how to use social media, Instagram, website building better.
I just make it all up. So I don't have any like people that I look to for that. Let me think. Go ahead, Karina.
Yeah, so to be honest, this is a newer area for me. I've done most of my work predominantly just in the community and haven't really relied on an online presence at all. I'm more of a face-to-face person and has done that predominantly the whole time. So now I'm moving into the online space more. And I find that it is like trial and error, seeing what works and what is attractive to your community and to who you're trying to target. So it will be different depending on who you want to engage. But also, I think for me, I'm utilizing people's skills. I'm looking around me and I've got a meeting Friday morning with someone online to chat to about who loved, that's her thing. She's a marketing social media guru person, and I met her the other day. We got along really well, and that's who I'm engaging with because I want to know how she thinks it's best for me to do it and best for me to move forward so that I'm not wasting time, because my time is really precious and energy is really precious at the moment. And so I'm instead of normally I would just trial things out and go however I learn as I go. But I have decided with this one not to and go, you know what, this is not my strength. I'm going to get a website graphic person, marketing person to chat to me because I met her and I think she's great. And often friends who have those skills are willing to share with you. So that's actually how I've done it. But it does come back to, brand, like what do you want to create? What are you working towards? That type of thing, because also, that campaigning and stuff will have a brand attached to it. Like, what do you want people to look at your social media and think? Like what feelings do you want to bring about them? All that kind of thing, and that will help you to be able to design what it looks like. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Kate, or have you gone? Okay, well, I have to go. Oh, no, Kate's gone. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Well, I think we're just going to leave it at that. Hopefully that has given you some insights into everything. I deeply wanted to thank you all for being part of this course. It has been an absolute honor. I know I said that a lot, but I really mean it. That's why it's coming from my heart and from my absolute essence. You are our first group that we've journeyed with, and we're going to continue this course ongoingly. So any feedback, and me and Kate are creatures of growth, and we always want to hear what you loved, what you thought could have been better, all of these things. And we want to see as well you guys continue to do your amazing work and step even fuller into the movement and into yourselves. And so I would love to see and hear about what you're doing and keep in touch some way, but also really strongly suggest that you keep in touch with each other in some form and return. I was speaking to Rose earlier around, you have these resources now, you can return to these learnings whenever, you can go back and go, I really feel like I need to revisit week 1 and go back and delve into self, delve into nature, whatever it is, that's there. So thank you so much, and my heart to your heart, you are just beautiful beings. And yeah, so thank you. I'll just unmute you so you guys can say goodbye to each other. If you...
Thanks so much. Bye.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was so great to be able to connect with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't be strangers. I'd really like to continue the conversation and see what you guys do and, learn from you.
Yes. Got to keep that conversation alive.
Yes.
You girls on Facebook and maybe in person.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's that community we can utilize and cultivate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If anyone's ever in San Francisco, please see me. You're welcome to stay with me. And then, you guys are in Australia. Maybe I'll be there one day.
Well, if you come to Manjak, that's where I am. You can come.
I would love to. I would love to.
Australia.
New Zealand, okay. True.
All right, my lovely ones, have a beautiful night or day or wherever you're at, and much love to you all. I just can't wait.
All right.
From you, we'll send out an evaluation or some feedback. Any testimonials and stuff is also really, really appreciated. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.